What's up guys? Today we're going to be doing some editing in Lightroom. I'm mainly going to be using two features. I'm going to be using the dehaze feature and I'm going to be using the manual noise reduction feature. So if you guys are ready, let's get right into it. Alright, so we're in Lightroom. Here's a photo I took of my wife while we were in Singapore. So normally I would just play around with this basic exposure tab over here. So like utilizing the histogram, you can see that it's more leaning towards the shadows and the highlights aren't as peaking as much as the mids and the shadows. So sometimes I would just, give a little bit more exposure, maybe add a little contrast. And for the highlights, I can try to bring them up to make kind of these orange lights bloom. There. So I'd say maybe around 13 looks good. And for the shadows, it's really up to the person who's editing if they want to crush their shadows, if you want more of a punchy look, or if you want to kind of lift the shadows to give more of a ethereal vibe to it. And for this, actually, when I took this picture, there was a whole bunch of mists being sprayed out from these little cannons over here. So the shadows, I'll either raise them, crush them, or sometimes just leave them as is, and for me, when I'm editing, I want to keep it as minimal as possible because I do tend to like the colors coming out of the Sony cameras natively. So I just try to keep the image as true to the, moment that I saw in real life as possible. So we're here. The white's also subjective. If you want it a little brighter, you can go to the right. If you want it to have more of a faded look, just draw them back. I think it gives her a softer look with her skin if you pull it back. Yeah, if you raise the highlights, you really see the noise come out. So I'm going to leave it as is. And for the blacks, again, if you want to kind of like lift up that area, that's possible. And then for the temperature, if you want a little warmer, I like the warmer look. It really brings out the bloom of those orange lights. And then for the tint, again, it's all subjective, really up to you how you want to edit. Okay, that's obviously too green. Sometimes I like to go like extreme to one side and just dial it back to where I feel like is a good middle ground or something that pleases my eye. So I'm just going to leave it as shot. Also, if you go right, it's a more magenta. And depending on the look you're trying to achieve, it's really up to you. But I think it already looks good as is. Maybe adding a little vibrance and a little saturation in there. That's just like a basic edit I would do normally. But today we are only going to play with two of the settings. So I'm going to hit Command R and reset. So this was the after. That's before. Before already looks pretty good. Okay, so we're just going to reset everything. And I feel like these settings over here, these features are really powerful. The dehaze and the manual noise reduction. So dehaze does exactly what you think it would do. It would make less haze. So if we want to increase the dehaze function, it would kind of remove all of that mist in the background, kind of make the colors more pop and clear and vibrant just naturally. So earlier we played around with the exposure, like the highlights, the shadows, the blacks, the contrasts, and we had to play with a couple sliders to get a desired image, but just using this dehaze function here. So I'd say, so here's an extreme example. So that's obviously way too saturated, too punchy. This was before. This is the extreme example. And again, some people might be into that. So I'd say a good middle ground is right around, I'd say 45. And you can see that when we did that, it kind of added a bunch of noise to the shot, in addition to the noise that was already present. Now, so that was just with the dehaze. That this is after, this is before, after. That already looks good itself. And, you know, it just, at the end of the day, depends on the look you're going for. And from here, instead of hitting this denoise feature, which reduces noise with AI, I like to use the manual noise reduction. And just zooming in, you can see all these little artifacts on and around my wife. So just bumping up the luminance, watch what happens to those like specks, those artifacts. They literally start to disappear. That's insane. So this is at luminance at 72 with the manual noise reduction. This is with it and this is without it. So it's already a lot softer, a lot cleaner. So before, after. That's crazy. So just adding that manual noise reduction already, you know, polishes up the photo so much. So we're just gonna, so if we went all the way to 100, it would look kind of almost unrealistic, almost like a AI generated photo. And this is without any at all. This is with 100%. And that, she looks like a video game character at this point, actually, which could be the look you're going for. Again, editing, especially in Lightroom, photography, creativity, it's all subjective to the person who's doing it. So some people might be into this look, but for me, let's try to make it look a bit more natural. So let's draw this back. Let's start from the beginning. So here, this is where we're starting from. And I think around, let's go to 75. 75 looks good. That's clean, it's soft, it's polished. And from here, like, if it looks a bit too soft, I said I was just only going to use two sliders, two features, the dehaze and luminance. But if you wanted to add back some detail, this is where you would add it, where it says detail over here. So adding some detail back in, it kind of gives a little bit more texture back to the subject. Okay, but if you don't really want that, you can also play with the contrast here. Contrast, you can see, is a little stronger as it will reintroduce noise. So just finding a good middle ground, I think, is the sweet spot. So maybe this is 100%. Style it back to maybe, I'd say 10 looks good. And there it is, guys. So just using the dehaze slider, I use dehaze here, and I use the manual noise reduction. 1, 2, 1, 2. Let's try to zoom in. 1, 2. Very powerful. And from here, if you wanted to push the look even further, you can play with the white balance and saturation. So if you want it cooler, that's fine. If you want it a tad bit warmer overall, tad bit. Okay, that's extreme. I like it maybe around, let's just give it a solid number, 65. There. So entering full screen, this is before. And just with two sliders, essentially, the dehaze and manual noise reduction, this is what we achieved. And we also played with the temperature a little bit towards the end. And just by using those two, guys, it's so powerful and it saves a lot of time. So I'd suggest giving that a try and playing around with it and, you know, see what kind of results it gets for you. All right, guys, so that's it for this video. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.